The afternoon of February 15th, 1997, in the bustling new city of Bundang, South Korea, was unremarkable. Lee Han-young, a man who had lived in the shadow of a secret for most of his life, was going about his day near his home. Perhaps he was still thinking about an interview he had given, where, when asked about the threat of North Korean assassins, he had shrugged with a casual defiance. "I'm not afraid," he had said. "I'm sure they won't kill me." It was a statement of breathtaking irony, because on that day, two men approached him. There was no warning, no shouted accusation, just the sharp, final crack of a Belgian-made Browning pistol. Lee Han-young fell to the ground. He was rushed to the hospital and placed on life support, but the wounds were too severe. For 10 agonizing days, he clung to life in a silent hospital room, a cruel pause between the violence of the attack and the inevitable end. He finally succumbed to his wounds on February 25th. The two assailants had vanished without a trace, their identities buried in the shadows of North Korea's clandestine operations. South Korea's Prime Minister, Lee Soo-sung, would initially point to the recent defection of a high-ranking party official as the motive, a political retaliation. Hwang Jang-yeop, one of North Korea's top ideologues, sought asylum at the South Korean embassy in Beijing. Others would whisper about gambling debts or a lover's quarrel. But these were smokescreens. The truth was far more personal, a poison that had been brewing within the Kim dynasty's innermost circle for decades. This execution was not just about politics. It was about a family's ruthless purification. The answer lies in a story of intimate betrayal, a story where Lee Han-young wasn't just a defector. He was the nephew of Kim Jong-il's secret lover, and his very existence had become an intolerable insult. To understand the gravity of Lee Han-young's crime in the eyes of Pyongyang, you must first understand the labyrinthine and deadly serious world of the Kim family's inner circle. Years before the gunfire, Lee Han-young, also known as Lee Han-young, lived under the shadow of North Korea's ruling dynasty. His story begins with his aunt, a beautiful and celebrated actress named Song Hae-rim. In the 1960s, Hae-rim caught the eye of Kim Jong-il, the heir apparent to North Korea's founding dictator, Kim Il-sung. She became his mistress, a relationship shrouded in absolute secrecy because Kim Jong-il was already married. For Song Hae-rim, this was a gilded cage. She was isolated from public life, hidden away, her existence known only to a trusted few. She bore Kim Jong-il a daughter, solidifying a bond that was as powerful as it was clandestine. This made Lee Han-young's mother, Song Hae-ran, the sister of the future supreme leader's secret consort. Lee Han-young and his family were not merely on the periphery of power. They were woven into its most intimate and hidden fabric. They enjoyed the privileges of the Pyongyang elite, better housing, better food, access to power. But this proximity came with a constant, chilling price: absolute loyalty and silence. In North Korea, to be family is to be both protected and imprisoned. For a time, Lee Han-young lived this life. But the suffocating control and the dark reality of the regime began to erode his comfort. The turning point came in 1982. Using his privileged status, he was sent to work at a North Korean-owned restaurant in Moscow. This was a common practice, posting loyalists abroad to earn foreign currency for the regime. But for Lee Han-young, it was a window to a world he had only heard whispers of. The relative openness of the Soviet Union, even in its later years, was a stark contrast to the hermetic seal of North Korea. It was there, surrounded by a freedom he had never known, that he made a decision that would define his destiny. He would not return. In a heart-pounding act of defiance, he sought asylum and was eventually resettled in South Korea in 1984. His defection was an intelligence coup of staggering proportions. Lee Han-young was not a low-level diplomat or a disgruntled soldier. He was a member of the Kim family's extended inner circle. He knew things. He knew about Kim Jong-il's personal life, his habits, his secret residences, his temperament. He was a walking encyclopedia of the regime's most closely guarded secrets. The South Korean intelligence agency, the Agency for National Security Planning, debriefed him extensively. The information he provided was invaluable. For the South, he was a propaganda victory and an intelligence goldmine. For the North, he was the ultimate traitor. He hadn't just betrayed a country, he had betrayed a family. And the Kim family did not forgive. For a few years, Lee Han-young tried to build a new life. He married a South Korean woman and they had a child. But the past was a predator that never stopped stalking him. He lived in a state of perpetual fear, a prisoner of his own notoriety. The stress was immense. His marriage, strained by the constant paranoia and the weight of their hidden history, eventually collapsed. The man who had once been part of Pyongyang's elite now drifted through Seoul, a ghost haunted by the very real specter of a death squad. He reported to the police that he was being followed, that he felt a target on his back. But as the years passed, some authorities may have grown complacent. The immediate threat seemed to fade. It was a fatal error in judgment. Because in Pyongyang, the insult of Lee Han-young's defection was compounded by an even more personal betrayal. In a stunning blow to the regime, his mother, Song Hai-ran, defected in 1992. Then, in 1996, the ultimate humiliation. Kim Yoon-kyung, the secret daughter of Kim Jong-il and Song Hai-rim, Lee Han-young's own cousin, also fled to the west. The entire Song family, the secret keepers, were abandoning the Kim dynasty. To Kim Jong-il, this was more than an embarrassment. It was a deeply personal act of treachery that struck at the heart of his controlled image. Lee Han-young, already a marked man, now became the most accessible and potent symbol of this family-wide betrayal. He was the one living just across the border, the one who had started the exodus. His elimination was no longer just about silencing a source. It was about vengeance. It was a message written in blood to anyone who would dare cross the Kim family. There is no escape, and blood ties mean nothing in the face of absolute power. The order was given. The plot was set in motion with cold, bureaucratic precision. It was assigned to professionals, likely from the Reconnaissance General Bureau, North Korea's premier foreign intelligence service. 2 agents infiltrated South Korea disguised as defectors, wolves hiding among the sheep. They blended into the community, patiently building their cover, all while meticulously tracking Lee Han-young's movements for months. They learned his routines, his habits, the places he frequented. The weapon of choice was a Browning pistol, a tool for a clinical, long-range kill. This was to be a swift, professional execution. Lee Han-young, perhaps feeling a fleeting sense of security, let his guard down. As he went about his business in Bundang, the 2 assassins closed in. The shots were fired. It was precise, deadly. The killers then melted back into the cityscape, executing a flawless escape. The investigation that followed would hit a dead end. The bullets were the only solid evidence, their origin pointing squarely to North Korea's special forces, but yielding no names. The 2 men were never caught. The case grew cold, a permanent testament to the impunity with which the regime could operate. The aftermath was as telling as the killing itself. The most chilling detail, the one that speaks volumes about the pervasive fear the Kim dynasty inspires, was his funeral. After the 10-day vigil in the hospital, only a handful of people, a mere 12, dared to attend the burial of Lee Han-young. Friends, associates, even fellow defectors were too terrified to pay their respects. They feared that the funeral itself could be a target, that the long arm of Pyongyang might plant a bomb to erase the final remnants of his memory. In death, as in life, Lee Han-young was alone. The assassination of Lee Han-young is more than a Cold War relic. It is a timeless lesson. It is a story about the crushing weight of absolute power, where family is both a shield and a weapon. Lee Han-young sought a life of his own choosing, but his name, his blood, and the secrets he carried made that impossible. His story ends not with justice, but with a quiet grave attended by a handful of souls and a legacy of fear. It reminds us that for the rulers in Pyongyang, the border is just a line on a map, and betrayal is the one sin for which there is no pardon, only a silenced nephew in a street in Bundang, and the echo of a gunshot that was meant to be heard as a warning for all eternity.